Welcome back to the Explainer. If you're focused on learning how the tools of tomorrow are being built today, well, you are in the exact right place. Today, we're looking at something that, honestly, fundamentally redefines our expectations of artificial intelligence. We're moving way past the idea of AI as just a chatbot, or a simple software tool. With Anthropic's release of Claude Opus 4.8, we really need to start thinking about AI as an autonomous, highly capable coworker. We're going to unpack exactly what makes this upgrade so transformative, digging into the direct specs, user reactions, and the real-world benchmarks. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. Meet Claude Opus 4.8. 2. Benchmarks, speed, and honesty. 3. Shifting gears, effort control. 4. Dynamic workflows and API updates. And finally, 5. The Mythos class horizon. Let's get straight into it. Section 1. Meet Claude Opus 4.8, the new AI coworker. Released on May 28, 2026, this update really does fundamentally shift how we collaborate with AI on complex knowledge work. Starting with the foundational developer specs, we're looking at a massive 1 million token context window capacity, right alongside a new 128,000 maximum output token option. But the real game changer for developers here, it's that third bullet point, a lower cacheable minimum of just 1,024 tokens. So what's the big takeaway here? Well, it literally means that teams who are building production-level AI agents are going to see massive cost controls and efficiency gains. You get to keep way more of your prompts in memory for a lot less money, which is absolutely critical for those long-running, complex interactions. Section 2, benchmarks, speed, and honesty under the hood. Because let's be real, an AI coworker is really only as valuable as its velocity and its accuracy. And this brilliantly illustrates the leap in capability we're talking about. On the SWE-Bench Pro evaluation, which tests agentic coding skills, Opus 4.8 scored a 69.2%. That is a very solid jump from Opus 4.7's 64.3%. Now, what makes this specific number so important is that it actually outperforms models like GPT 5.5 and Gemini 3.1 Pro on this specific engineering benchmark. We're looking at a highly capable coder that can use tools and actually check its own work. But accuracy isn't the only improvement, right? Velocity's up next. Opus 4.8 features a brand new fast mode that runs at 2.5 times the speed of previous models. Think of this. Well, it's like taking your most capable intern and instantly upgrading their processing speed to superhuman levels. They can iterate, write code, and synthesize documents more than twice as fast. However, speed like that, it doesn't exactly come for free. There's a clear pricing trade-off here. If you stick to regular usage, Opus 4.8 retains the exact same pricing as Opus 4.7, so that's $5 per million input tokens and $25 per million output tokens. But if you really need that 2.5x speed boost, fast mode comes at a premium for power users, $10 for input and $50 for output, so it's a calculated choice between your budget and just sheer velocity. Beyond speed and coding, Anthropic highlighted something rather unique in their release notes, the model's quote-unquote honesty. This is a direct quote from their alignment assessment, stating the model hits new highs on our measures of pro-social traits like supporting user autonomy and acting in the user's best interest. It's a highly corporate, very carefully worded way of saying the AI is just way less likely to deceive you or confidently make things up. But of course, the internet had a slightly different take. This comment from a user on the Mac Rumors forum perfectly captures the tension. So you're telling me Claude has been lying to me all this time? It's a funny, kind of skeptical reaction, but it highlights a really fascinating friction. When companies use words like honesty or pro-social traits, we tend to anthropomorphize these models. We treat them like humans, which makes it feel like a weird betrayal when we realize an earlier version might have been, quote, lying by hallucinating facts. Bringing this back to the practical, real-world impact, though, stripped of all that human emotion, what this literally means is that Claude Opus 4.8 is 4 times less likely to allow flaws in the code it has written to pass by unremarked. It is significantly better at catching its own mistakes, flagging uncertainties, and stopping itself before it confidently hallucinates a broken solution. Honestly, that is the kind of honesty that saves developers hours and hours of debugging. Let's move to Section 3, shifting gears with effort control, the steering wheel. Raw performance is great and all, but how do you actually control this power? Well, they're calling it effort control. It's a setting that allows users to dictate how much compute power, and therefore how much token burn, Claude applies to a single response.
If we use a car analogy, it's quite literally a manual transmission for artificial intelligence. You are the driver here, and you can shift gears depending on whether you're just cruising on the highway or trying to haul a really heavy load up a steep hill.
Here's how that trade-off actually looks in practice. Low effort means Claude responds faster and preserves your rate limits. High effort? That means deeper thinking and a higher token burn. By default, Opus 4.8 is set to high effort, which Anthropic says balances quality and user experience. But for massive, super difficult, or asynchronous tasks, users can manually push the model into X high or even max effort, basically telling Claude to spend as many tokens as it needs to thoroughly solve the problem. All right, Section 4, Dynamic Workflows and API Updates, the factory floor. We're stepping out of the driver's seat now and shifting the explainer to look at the new enterprise-level capabilities, specifically how Opus 4.8 manages massive invisible background tasks for entire organizations. This brings us to a really cool new research preview feature called Dynamic Workflows. When tasked with a massive project in Claude Code, Opus 4.8 doesn't just generate text. First, it plans out the work. Second, it spins up and runs hundreds of parallel sub-agents in a single session. Third, it verifies its own outputs against existing test suites. And finally, it reports back to the user. It is exactly like hiring a whole team of interns who just divide and conquer a massive project in the background while you focus on other things. To truly grasp the scale of what dynamic workflows can accomplish, consider its ultimate capacity. We are talking about end-to-end code-based scale migrations across hundreds of thousands of lines of code. This is currently available for Enterprise, Team, and Max Plan users, and it really demonstrates how AI is moving away from just a localized chat window and becoming a true system-wide infrastructure tool. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how developers can orchestrate all this on the back end. The Messages API has been updated so developers can actually insert system entries mid-task. This means you can pivot Claude mid-thought, updating its instructions, changing its permissions, or even altering its token budget without having to break the prompt cache and restart the entire conversation. They also added a stop_details object so developers can programmatically handle instances where Claude refuses a request. Pretty slick.
And the industry is definitely taking notice of these workflow improvements. Hanlin Tang, the CTO over at Diabolikss, tested the model in their Genie AI agent and summarized the consensus perfectly. The new Opus model unlocks a step change in agentic reasoning, tackling deeper, multi-step questions faster. The overarching theme from early enterprise testers is that this agentic reliability is finally crossing the threshold into true enterprise-grade standards.
Section 5, the Mythos class horizon, what's next? In the fast-paced world of AI, the finish line is literally always moving. So here's what these continuous updates mean for the near future. So the crucial point here is the sheer speed of this development cycle. Opus 4.7 dropped on April 16th. Just 6 weeks later, on May 28th, we got Opus 4.8. And Anthropic is already teasing the next huge leap, the Mythos class models. Currently, the Mythos tier is highly secured, and it's only being tested by a really small number of organizations for cybersecurity work under something called Project Glasswing. Anthropic says these models are so wildly capable that they require much stronger cyber safeguards before a public release, which they actually expect in the coming weeks. Which leaves us with a pretty critical thought to ponder. We've seen the honesty metrics, the manual effort controls, and the mind-blowing ability of Opus 4.8 to autonomously rewrite hundreds of thousands of lines of code. We know even more powerful, heavily safeguarded Mythos models are literally just weeks away. So as AI gains this true agency and really transitions into a proactive coworker, is our greatest hurdle going to be the limitations of the technology itself, or our own ability to trust it to act on our behalf? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.